You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
All right. Another great day here in the neighborhood. Today we're going to talk with Kandy of UMortgage. We're going to talk about mortgage rates and home buying business. It's a lot going on, right?
It is.
You were talking to me about this Wednesday. She's a BNI friend as well. And you'll be president of the group for what, another 2 months?
October.
Yeah.
Or 1st of October.
Yeah.
I'm no longer.
Well, yeah, we're pitching in for a nice big statue of you since you were such an influential president. But it's a lot going on, and I saw some in the news even. I thought, wow, this is really timely. And so I hope that y'all out there in the vast listening audience get some insight about the mortgage rates and the house buying, and also we're going to talk a little bit about the proposed property tax reduction from our friends in Austin. That's a big deal.
Very big deal.
Very big deal. I didn't even realize until one of my real estate friends told me about it, what it really meant. And like, my goodness, that's going to be a big change. But let's go ahead and talk about our sponsors first, so we can, because they make this all possible. Our friends at CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. They got a lot going on. They were on the show about 2 months ago, and the new owners, Lexi and Bailey, and they got some plans. They got some hopes that they want to put towards this new outfit. Daniel, the old owner, has been exceptionally supportive of them and trying to get things, more to what they want. They wanted to have like bodybuilding and stuff like that too. So apparently, they're going through that as well. But anyway, it's on 317 Southwest Wilshire. So check it out if you're looking for that kind of workout. Also, thank you to Shandy. You know Shandy stuff still. Yeah, I guess that whole community is kind of like I don't know. Is it just like a bunch of friends? All right.
Pretty much. You work with each other here and there. So,
Shandy really knows her real estate very, very well, very well, and she always is well prepared when she comes on here and talks about what's going on in the real estate. She talks about the buying and selling side. You're talking about once that decisions are starting to be made, then that's where you come in, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's best to be pre-approved before you talk to a realtor.
All right, we found out a lot of this stuff when Shandy was selling my daughter's house last month about being pre-approved and all this other business. Oops, and here's my phone still talking to me. I need to turn down the sound. I've been doing this nearly 4 years, and I still mess up on that. Anyway, thank you to Shandy. Thank you also to Our Place and Otto, as always. You've been there a few times, no doubt.
Oh, yes.
But who hasn't been there? I mean, it's like a community crossroads almost. You go in there and you see a lot of people you know, and it's a great place to do business. I go every other Thursday. I go with some men in my Sunday school class, and they because we do it routinely, and they have such a consistent staff, they know what we want almost as we walk in, which is really, really nice. It's like a hometown, which is what his whole goal is to be. And also they have that new one over in Cleburne, which apparently has really taken off. So
I've been there too.
Oh, is that really?
Yeah.
I have not been there. So how is that?
It's great food.
As always.
Yeah.
Who would, of course. Thank you, Otto, for all you do for the community. Thank you also to Will. I was reading something here on the phone when I said that. I'm talking to Chris, actually, at Wild Cigar and Culture. You ever read something and trying to talk at the same time? But anyway, Wild Cigar and Culture over at the Standard, I know Kandy's a, big-time cigar smoker, but, But anyway, you go over there, got gift certificates and gift cards for those who in your life that would like a decent cigar or a decent drink or whatnot. It's a good place to do business. They got a conference room, even if you want to have like a large meeting. I think it's about a dozen people. But it's, if you want to have a small group. So Wild Cigar and Culture over at the Standard. Also, thank you to Local Life Magazine. It's Tiffany's working on that issue right now. Next week is, I don't know if it'll be out on the 1st, but she almost always has it mailed out by the 1st of the month. But you'll get it certainly right after Labor Day, if not sooner. But she does a really good job, and she goes to 30,000 homes and businesses. So it's you get a lot of coverage from her. So, okay, now we're going to talk about stuff. Oh, the Burleson bus. I'm sorry, Cody, if you're listening. I thought this was coming later in the show, but well, there you are. But the Burleson Buzz is a local news blog, and it came out an issue, if you will, came out about the last 24 hours. Came out about the city council meetings and whatever else. And the young man Cody O'Brien is really serious about making this work, and so he's trying to recreate a new hometown newspaper. And so check out the Burleson Buzz for its stories. Also, subscription rates, which is very, very affordable. I subscribed Monday, and it's a very affordable rate. So check out the Burleson Buzz. It's this young man really is working hard to make this thing work. Okay, now we can talk. We do the BNI group ads about the middle of the show because I don't want to just run them all. And that way, I have enough sponsors from BNI that I could do a little segment of them. It's kind of nice. But anyway, so yesterday I'm watching the news, and it says the average mortgage rate is 7.38. Is that roughly correct?
Yeah, a lot goes into the interest rate, meaning credit scores
Right.
and loan amounts and things like that. But yeah, they're in the sevens and probably low eights. However, being a broker, as what I am now, I get to shop around for those lower rates.
So UMortgage is not like tied to one lender. You and I have done business before, long before we were in BNI. And, you and your partner, Sammy Joe Campbell, when y'all were Sendera, refinanced our home, about 15, 16 years ago. And then you did so again about 8 or 9 years later when I was trying to put some money together for my kids to go to college. And so I personally have experienced how well you do your job. But
Thank you.
It was great. It was a great, it was for us a very easy experience. People think of refinancing a home to think they're going to have to give up a kidney or something like that. It's going to be a real problem.
We like to make it an easy process and less stressful for everybody.
And it really was. And as far as, you had to wait a little while because there's processes and inspections and appraisals and yada, yada, yada. So it all didn't happen in 12 hours, but it took about, I think the second time about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And the first time maybe a month. And and so... but anyway, you're right. But for UMortgage, you deal with all the mortgage companies, right?
I deal with investors, lenders, so quite a few, and a lot of different programs also that we call non-QM. So if you don't fit into the FHA or conventional or VA or USDA programs, there's a lot of programs I have out there that are available that I could possibly fit somebody into.
So if the biggest difference going to UMortgage instead of going to a typical lender is that you have a ton of options you can choose from.
A ton of options, and I'm also searching for lower interest rates.
Do you let the customer choose the options, or do you just say here's the best one for you?
I go over it with them because I want it to be their decision. But I want to give them all the tools that they need to make that right decision. So, I don't want to confuse somebody either and give them too much, but I would probably choose the best ones to go over with them, something that would benefit them and not, make them, what do I want to say? Sorry that they made a purchase or refinanced. I want to make sure it's in their favor. So, yeah.
Well, see, I wouldn't know. That's why I would ask you. So, which one is the best, and then just assume that you found the best. But it sounds like you got more options than what I was thinking in my head. I was thinking you'd be dealing with some of these larger mortgage brokers or maybe investment groups or whatever else, and really, it's even more varied than that.
I have a few of my favorites that I tend to look at first as far as my investors. I know where their interest rates are going to be compared to some of the other ones. I still look at the other ones, but, I usually pick out 2 or 3 and look at theirs first. And then if I don't like what I'm seeing, I'll check somebody else out. But as far as programs too, we have so many programs. We have a program that is not income-based. And I think there's only 1 or 2 in the U.S. that has something like this.
That's interesting. I thought to be one of the basis of getting a loan was your income.
I just did my first one. It's been a couple months ago, I guess, and did not have to show pay stubs, income, or anything, but they had to have money. They had to have reserves in the bank just sitting there, and they did.
Well, it must have been a decent amount of reserves.
12 months.
Okay.
12 months, yeah.
Okay. Just off the top of your head, how many different companies do you think you deal with? Sounds like a bunch.
Guessing, I really don't know, but I would say maybe 12 to 15.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking about, something like 15 to 20 or something like that. So how does this work? Are you dealing with the realtor or dealing with the client or both?
Both,
Okay.
yeah. A lot of my referrals come from realtors. I work really close with realtors. And then sometimes I had a call last, I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I asked them, because I always like to ask, how did you get my name? Because I want to thank whoever and make sure they stay in contact with that person. And they said, well, we got it off of findamortgagebroker.com. And so they went on there and they found me there, and that's how so sometimes there's not a realtor involved. I would say probably 90%, 95% of the time there is.
Well, that's all, maybe for a new purchase or, buying a new home for them. But, for refinance, we didn't use a broker. We just kind of said, hey, we need some money.
Yeah.
And
because there's not a contract involved on that.
So they come in. This is how more or less it works, I suppose, is that the client and their broker or their real estate agent, whatever, they'll come in. See, when UMortgage makes it sound like it's all done online, but you have an office location here. So it's in the B&G complex. It's that big standalone building on the
300 East Renfro, Suite 300. We're on the 3rd floor.
Right. It's on the south end of that complex. And so they come in, you give them some coffee, and you say, let's crunch numbers. That sounds like a ton of fun.
The first thing I do when I'm talking to them on the phone, I offer to, because I know a lot of people are working during the day and maybe they don't have the time to come in. Yeah. Some people
have jobs, I hear.
So I'll offer to take the application over the phone if they need me to, or they can go to my website, which is my name, Kandy Gal, Kandy with a K, kandygal.com, and they can complete the application online. Once they do that, I'm sent a message that I have a new application that's been input, so I can go in there and work the numbers for them. I do like to meet them, so if they want to come by the office, I offer that, and they can bring me their documents, because we do need income documents, like pay stubs, W-2s from the last 2 years, things like that.
Yeah.
Or they can email that to me. But a lot of times I do like to meet them if they're available, because I want them to feel comfortable with who they're using. And like I said, because there are some times where, personalities, might not mesh, but I try to accommodate everybody, and I want them to feel comfortable about what they're doing.
I'm trying to imagine somebody not getting along with you. I mean, come on, please. I mean, because you're pretty easygoing and really sweet and all that. And so, but as far as the rates, again, I guess why would one company be offering around 8 and another one by 7.5? Now, I have a degree in finance that from Baylor that I haven't used since the mid 80s. All right, I've in a sense, but I kind of kept up with it. I taught economics and all that. But I just wonder why one's cost of borrowing is different between the institutions.
Well, one thing is I came from the retail division, the retail side. Well, the retail side, when you're working just for that one company, you have to use the rates that they quote. And they've got a lot of things built into that, running their offices, running their branches, things like that. So their rates are going to be a little bit higher, where we don't have that much, or much of anything. We can work from home if we need to, but anybody can do that pretty much, being a loan officer. But we just don't have a lot of things to build in. So that's why our rates are going to be lower.
Well, I figured, because I've been to your office. It's a very nice office, but, it's just the two of y'all, right? And,
right now.
So you want to add to that, do you?
Yeah, eventually.
Okay, okay. Well, that'd be great.
We're always looking to grow.
Yes. And so if you have other potential lenders out there, they may want to hop on with you.
Sure.
For what I've seen, though, there's a lot of movement in the finance industry. I have friends in the banking industry that are like on their 8th page of their resume.
Well, before I was in this industry, I know my mother-in-law worked for a title company. title companies. And she moved around a lot. And I always thought, oh, that doesn't look good. I thought that to myself. But once I was in this industry, I'm like, oh, that's just the norm.
Why is that? What's happening?
I think a lot of it, I can't speak on the title side, but on my side, I've made those moves because it's improvements to my buyers or borrowers, realtors. For instance, this last one was for better interest rates. I've made the move before to a bank because I could do interim construction loans, which I can do now anyway where I'm at. So it's always either I'm getting more products out there for people or interest rates, but I'm always happy where I'm at pretty much. There was only one place, and I'm not going to give the name, that I was not happy.
I'm not going to ask.
But I lasted probably 4 months there. But, sometimes you get in with somebody and they promise you a lot and they don't deliver, and you just can't stay there for that, you know?
No. I can imagine. But I just always wondered about that because, I just saw a couple of my old friends that I went to high school and college with, and one of them is a banker, and literally he's worked for 16 banks. And this guy is, it's quite often it wasn't because he was moving on or looking for something else. Quite often he said he worked for 4 different banks and never left his office because everybody kept buying out everybody.
And that happens too.
A lot of buyouts. He'd say one day he'd walk in and all of a sudden he's working for another bank.
Yeah. And it's all of a sudden, know.
And he didn't even move his desk 1 inch, and so it's, I don't know. I couldn't handle that kind of instability, but I guess that's the norm.
Well, yeah, especially, doing what I do. I love what I do and making people happy and, getting them in the house that they want, and anything I can do to help with that is, gives you pleasure,
Yeah, I could see that. And how long have you been doing it?
Since 2007.
Okay. How did you get in it?
Well, my brother had rental property. He had quite a bit of rental property that I was helping him with. I was in advertising way before that, though. But I had a little one that I needed to stay home with. So my brother said, I'll hire you and you help me with my rental property. Well, that got to be a full-time job with him. But then he wanted to sell and asked me if I wanted to buy it. And I'm like, no. No, don't want to do that. So then I just answered an ad. And Sammy Campbell was the co-branch manager at that time, and she hired me, and the rest is history. Yeah. Now, I was her assistant for a long time, and so I helped her out. So she taught me, she taught me what I know about it actually, and the way to do process, and the way to do your files, and to get them submitted where you're going to have a clean file and not a lot of questions about the documents you send in. You want it to come out as clean as possible. So, and when I say that, I mean not a lot of conditions from an underwriter.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that as well, because just because you see a rate that's quoted on an ad or on the news or whatever else, that doesn't necessarily mean that's your rate.
No.
So, what goes into all of that?
I get a lot of calls that'll say, oh, I saw on TV that the rates dropped or whatever, but that may not be the interest rates for a mortgage. That may be more for like installation loans or something like that. And they don't say that on that commercial, So I get a lot of people saying, well, I saw it was this. And I'll say, well, a mortgage is a little bit different. And I can quote you some rates today, but the rates change daily, sometimes multiple times a day. So, we always have something brought up where we're watching the rates throughout the day on what they're doing. And if we need to lock a loan, I will call the buyer or borrower and say, hey, you know what, the rates are going all over the place. And you listen to these experts on it too that kind of guide you on what the market's going to do or what they feel the market's going to do. No one knows for sure.
Well, they act like they do.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of things play a part in that, you know.
The Federal Reserve says, oh, what's this going to happen? Oh, my stars.
Yeah.
We didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Kind of like the weatherman.
Yeah, or sports prognostications.
Yeah.
But, what I've seen also is that one's own personal financial situation and credit score also affects it quite a bit.
Yes.
Let's say you have a really good score. What does that do for you?
Oh, well,
Does it get you a lower rate, or does it just get you lower closing costs?
No,
or
it's a lower
fewer points, or what?
Lower rate. Now you can always, if you have a higher rate, you can always buy those points down for a lower rate. Sometimes it's worth it. We kind of look at the numbers and see how long it would take them to recoup that one-time fee. And then I give them that information, and if they want to invest that money in buying that rate down, if they plan on living there, 5 years, that's something to look at. We can always look at right now where the rates are. I have a list that I've started where when they start coming down, I'm going to call these previous buyers. They've asked me to, borrowers, to see if it's going to benefit them to refinance. So I've got that list started because they'll come down. Are they going to come down to the 2.875 again? I'd never seen it like that. But
I haven't either. When mine is low fours.
Yeah.
And when I got it, I was like, well, I was hoping for under 4, but whatever. It all's the same. But now it's a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people would love that rate.
Yeah, and another thing I saw also in the same report about the interest rates is that because the interest rates are high, it not only is making it more difficult to sell a house or buy a house and to sell a house, it's because a lot of buyers or potential, well, let me rephrase it, a lot of potential sellers, because their rates are low 4s or upper 3s or whatever, are more and more reluctant to put their house on the market because they know they're not going to get that rate again.
Right.
Has that affected y'all's business?
It probably has somewhat. I've not noticed it really though, because you still have those people. It's the thing I look at. It's best to buy now than wait, because you can be, for instance, if you're renting, where's you're not building up any equity. You're just helping the homeowner, the landlord. Yeah. So it's best to buy now, in my opinion, and then we'll watch the rates and come down. Real estate is the best investment you can ever make in your life. You know.
Well, the home value shot up so much during the COVID period, particularly. This is also part of that report I was reading about, that they shot up so high that the sellers still expect to get that kind of high price, and they're not getting it.
Right.
And they find out if they really have to sell, they're going to have to cut their price and pay a higher interest rate on their new location. And so Shandy and I have talked about this before when she was helping with my daughter. The market has slowed down quite a bit.
And it has slowed down, but it's also slowed down because of the time of the year now.
Is that what it does?
Yeah, school started. People aren't looking to move as much as they are in the spring, so that plays a part too.
Well, I always thought that the decision to move was primarily financially driven, not just time of year and things of that nature. But it was an interesting report because it talked about, had this young couple and they wanted to get a bigger house. They had a nice house, but they couldn't afford a similar house. Not necessarily like a mansion or a really big one. Just they couldn't afford a similar sized house.
Right.
Almost everybody that I talked to about moving, the people my age, it's all downsizing. And that kind of thing is, or they want to move further out to the country maybe. But they'll have a smaller home, but they'll have more acreage or something. But they're finding it hard because if they put their house on the market, they have an expectation of what they were going to get that was kind of formed a couple of years ago, and then they find out, well, not so much.
Right.
And it's always a gamble. And it also is a gamble, what you just said something earlier that I thought was interesting, is that the rate changes multiple times a day. So, so you may get a rate locked in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you missed out on that cut.
Yeah. Well, that can definitely happen. But if you just watch the rates throughout the day and you can kind of tell what the market's doing, you know.
Well, but they're not jumping like a point a day. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of a point.
Yeah, it is correct. And it's not, people get fixated, is that the right word?
Sure.
On a lower interest rate. But if it goes up, just a small amount, it doesn't make that big a difference in your monthly payment.
I wouldn't think so. If it goes from 7.38 today to 7.4, you were talking what, $20?
Not even that.
Yeah. I mean, somebody, I think Shandy told me some sort of rubric, you can, for every so much value of a house, how much a rate change would make a difference of. And, so, people that get, say, by golly, we got to get the very, very lowest rate.
Right.
They may hold out for that last dollar and miss out.
That's correct, yeah.
Now, would you also tell somebody that's looking to move right now with the rates are being a little higher and potentially could go higher to go ahead and buy now because you can always get a lower rate? Because when I built and we built our house in 91, we bought the property and Rob and I built the house. The rate was 9.1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that was, at that time, was seen as not so bad.
Right.
All right. Now, was it 30 years ago? It started coming down throughout the 80s, but even at the end of not the 80s, what I'm saying, end of the 90s, there you are. And even going down to the 90s, but it's still at the end of the 90s was around 5. And so we refinanced to get that lower rate. But it still was higher than what we had been experiencing. Mm-hmm. And when I was in high school and early college, the interest rate was like, it was ridiculous. It was like low 20s.
Yeah.
You know, you and I, well, I'm older than you, I'm sure.
No,
but,
you're not.
Okay, fine. But you remember that era where the interest rates were like 20%, 21%?
My husband, before we were married, I'm not sure what year he bought a manufactured home, and his interest rate was like 21. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Our first house we had built in Fort Worth, and the interest rate was, we were told we were locked in at, now this is another reason I like doing what I'm doing. We were told we were locked in at 8%, but they didn't. They locked us in at a 9%, and that's not good. And so, you know.
Oh, I remember that happened to my dad when he moved into the house they're in now. They've been in the house for about 25 years now, but that happened where almost half a point difference in what he was told, and he was upset.
Oh, we were upset. We went, it was a builder, and we went to the builder's office, and I mean, and he's just like, oh, it's nothing I can do about it. We even had a paper showing that where we were locked in.
Yeah.
So it's just like I shouldn't say they don't care. A lot of people don't care. That's why you want to make sure you're with somebody that cares about what happens, because it's your reputation on the line.
Well, that's why I went locally. I mean, I could have gone when I was using Sendera, you and Sammy. I wanted to be able to walk in somebody's office. Y'all at the time, y'all were at the B&G building also at another spot, and I wanted to be able to talk to people because I did my done some stuff with people online, and it's frustrating, financially related stuff. It's very, very frustrating because, you call in, you have to wait, you talk to people who may or may not know what they're talking about. I want to be able to walk in and sit down across the desk, or the old school way of doing business. And that's what I like about your business. I mean, it may sound, UMortgage may sound like it's all online, but no, online supplements it, it doesn't replace it.
Right. If whoever I'm working with, I'm the point of contact. So, and that's one thing I kind of take pride in, because I even tell my processing team, I'll tell them, if you need anything, you come to me, because I may already have what they're asking for, or I want the borrower when I give them a call, I want them to know it's me. Now, every now and then, I've had a processor reach out, and the borrower will say, hey, this person reached out to me. Is this okay? And I'm like, yes, go ahead and send that to them. But I always tell them, I'm your point of contact.
Right.
And I want them to feel comfortable about that, know?
And also, with the way things are on the internet anyway, I'd be very uncomfortable putting that kind of information out online.
Oh, yeah.
It's different.
You don't know who you're working with, really. And I talk to people that will say, well, I'm talking to you, but then I'm also talking to someone else in California, Well,
what's your opinion of Quicken and Rocket Mortgage?
Quicken, I've had agents work with Quicken. I don't hear anything bad. There may be, Rocket, I've heard bad things about them. I really don't know much about them. I kind of stay in my lane.
Right.
I just concentrate on what I'm doing and making sure I'm giving the best service. But I've heard some complaints,
Well, because I see them advertised a lot, and they're a big mega outfit and all this other stuff.
But I think also when you're working with somebody like that, you don't know, when you call, you don't know who you're getting, or who you talked to yesterday may not be there anymore.
Yeah. Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a little side trip here to our BNI friends here. We're going to do their ads, because I like to do them in the middle of the show now, so they can get some, a little break and, run a long run of ads. I know that sounds like humble brag right there. I got so many ads, I got to split them up, but that's fine. Yeah, see, he's got like that. He likes that little effect there. All right, Southern Gem, of course, with Gayla, we know all these people well. And, you've been in her new location?
I have. I went a couple of weeks ago. I love her jewelry.
Yeah.
I need to stay out of there, but it's gorgeous.
It's like Disney World for jewelry
goodness.
people. I mean, it's got all sorts of stuff in there, and they do the repairs and designs and all this
Well,
other
they
stuff.
cleaned my ring when I was in there. In fact, there was a ring I really liked. I was talking to Robin, and I said, what is the price of that? Because I was thinking it was a lot higher than what it was. And she told me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I thought it was going to be, triple that.
Well, Gayla has some that are pretty, high dollar, and she has a lot of stuff that are affordable.
This was diamonds.
Yeah, and we're talking about diamonds and gold.
Yeah.
She has some stuff that people can afford. I've bought stuff there for Robin before, and I'm certainly not rolling in dough. But she also has some for the high rollers. I mean, it's impressive. So over at the Standard, right next to American Revelry. So check it out. Also, our friend John Williams, he'll be on next Tuesday. We're going to talk roofs. I mean, I know people go, oh, that sounds fun. I think it's an important topic to talk about because it's like you were talking about, your home is your biggest investment. And if you neglect that, few things will damage your house quicker than a bad roof. And John does a really good job. 817-734-2756. He won't upsell you. I think that's the good thing I liked about him when he came out and did our house. We just had that hailstorm about 6 weeks ago, and I'm thinking, okay, how much is this going to cost? And I wouldn't resenting it because I just figured it's just the cost of home ownership. And he comes back and says, "You're good."
Yeah, yeah.
That's
who we used. I mean, locally owned.
Yes. I that's what I like about all these. They're all locally owned. You can go in and walk in and look them in the eye if you need to. Also, friend Melissa Harmon, new grandmother, 6-time grandmother now. Okay. 682-804-0534 at Texas Farm Bureau. I hear a lot of good comments from guests about Texas Farm Bureau itself. Even if Melissa's not their agent, they have one, and they'll say that they're very good at working with the clients. And if you ever dealt with insurance companies, it could be a beating. Y'all don't deal with it that end of it much, do you?
No, I get quotes, and I get quotes from Melissa. She's my insurance person too, and so I get quotes and help people out on quotes and send it to them, and let them choose. But as far as the quotes, Melissa has been, great.
Yes, she has. Well, speaking of Lisa, she's next here at Morris and Lisa Smith over at Top Restoration. So when did they get it right?
The first time.
There you go. I had to see if you're well trained. Then, but she's a very lovely person, and they do really, really good work. High quality people, and you need people. You have people in your house, particularly in a situation that they come in. They come in after a fire or water damage or a biohazard. That wouldn't surprise me. Or if you have mold, you're already stressed. You're not. Your nerves are shot. You're all worried about what's going to cost, whatever. She's really good at making you feel better about things. And so if you had some sort of damage to your house and it leaves lasting damage, you just don't want to let it go. You want to have them in. Also, she told me a lot of their business is stuff not by natural disaster or some crisis, but, water leaks that people didn't know about, like behind the shower wall or the hot water heater and things like that.
Well, I know they take good care of their customers.
And then there you are, 817-925-2661. And like you said, you have KGAL at UMortgage.com, but you also said you had another...
my website is my name, which is KandyGal.com.
And so let's go back to what we were talking about, if I can remember exactly. But anyway, so when you get a client and all this, and they go through all this process, at what point do they get locked in on the interest rates? Because I know that, is that at the beginning, the middle, or the end?
It depends on where the market is. I look at the rates, and if they're pretty good, I like to lock them in at the very beginning. That's what I like to do. I sometimes I don't like to gamble, but I talk to the borrower about the rate and give them my opinion and see what they want to do.
Well, how long does this process take from the minute they walked in and you first meet them to you shaking hands and popping the champagne or whatever you do?
Well, I can get them pre-approved or pre-qualified. If I have their documents pre-approved, I can get them pre-approved or pre-qualified that same day.
That day?
Okay, that day.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I have a program where it's called Bolt, and we can go ahead and submit their file, even if they don't have a property, and get them pre-approved, actually conditionally approved, where it goes through underwriting. So it looks better when this borrower is putting an offer on a home. They've already been through underwriting. They just need that home to go with their file.
And so I could get pre-approved and basically said, this is how much I have to spend on a home. And I could start home shopping with that in mind. It was like a budget or something.
Yeah.
And that's pretty handy. So I got up to a certain point. I know what rates are and whatnot. And so can you, if you lock in at the beginning and then they drop dramatically in the next 30 days or whatever it takes, can you unlock it and then relock, or you're stuck? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Now, if we lock and say they want to change their rate and maybe either buy it down or maybe not put as much down towards it and, get a little bit of a higher rate, we can change it, whatever the rate was that day that I locked it.
Well, I like the pre-approved part because, again, when my daughter was selling her house, the people that bought their house got pre-approved, and it made things a whole lot easier. Before they went through all the song and dance you go through to go buy a home, that's probably the biggest question, right? And that was already answered near the very beginning of the process.
Well, actually, conditional approval. If I can send the file through the BOLT program, BOLT is what I call it, and get them conditionally approved, where underwriters looked at it and they're good to go. We just need that property. I mean, your turnaround times, the thing that's going to take the longest is the appraisal, but those appraisals have been coming in pretty quick lately.
Yeah.
So usually I say from very beginning and when they find a house to the end, everybody used to always say 30 days.
Yeah.
I've had probably the last 3 be clear to close 10 days early. So you're looking at 15 days. Yeah.
That's great because it is kind of nerve-wracking when you're selling a house or buying a house, because a lot of us laymen have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Papers flying everywhere and, all this other stuff, and we don't have any idea. And, like, again, when my daughter was selling her house, we were kind of waiting for just like the shoe to fall.
Waiting is the hardest part. And I've been
Tom
on that
Petty
end.
say that? Yeah. Tom Petty said that, did he? Okay. It is hard because you just in your mind, you're thinking, what if a bolt of lightning hits that house? And am I on the hook for it now? And that kind of stuff,
Well, and going through it before I was in the industry, that was very hard for my husband and I to go through that and just waiting. And he brings that up all the time because I like to keep people informed and communicate with them and let them know, I kind of touch base with them throughout the whole week to let them know where we're at in the process, because that eases their mind.
Yeah.
And like on Fridays, I'll give them a call and say, hey, before the weekend, I wanted you to know this, this, and this, so they're not worried about it.
That's why we like you so much at BNI. That's why we recommend you to our friends, because of that very thing right there. Just those little things like that to, ease our discomfort. Even if, just let us know that you're still, you're thinking about us, that kind of thing. That's somebody that I only deal with once or twice. We like to be felt like to where you're first and only customer.
Oh, definitely.
And even though
I hope everyone does feel that way, because that's what I strive for.
Yes, and that's why that's a good thing about doing business in this town. For a lot of us is that we have a lot of people in this town that operate their business with that philosophy, and that's why going outside Burleson. Well, you don't have to do that as much as you used to.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to build at BNI as well, is that kind of grouping.
Kind of a small town feel. I think it's the way we were raised, too,
Are you a native Burlesonian?
No.
Where are you from?
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth, well, close enough.
Got here as fast as I could.
Oh, okay. Well, you're from the area then, but you're not like, from out of state or something.
No, lived in Texas all my life. Now, my dad was a grocery store manager back in the day for Safeway and then Winn-Dixie. So we moved quite a bit growing up because he'd be transferred. We lived in Eastland, Breckenridge, all different Wichita Falls,
That's nice. Wichita Falls is the hottest and the coldest place I've ever been. It just seems to be right that spot. And the geography just to get hammered, 6 months out of the year.
Tornadoes.
But my father-in-law used to be a Winn-Dixie manager before he got into the ministry. Yeah, stores in South Carolina and Rock Hill, but they lived in North Carolina. Rock Hill's right on the border there, and so he left his job to get into the ministry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people thought it was crazy. No,
Well, he had that calling.
Had the calling, but it is what it is. I had a similar calling, not to the ministry or to teaching, so I relate to him, but still, I couldn't be in the ministry.
Yeah.
I like my Sundays off. Anyway, but anyway, back to y'all. As far as UMortgage is concerned, this is not just a local outfit, though. I checked out your website, and you got agents all over the country, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if y'all are hearing this on YouTube or on Apple or Spotify, and you don't live in Burleson, that really doesn't matter. You could still work with them just as easy, right?
Right. And within my office, I'm licensed in Texas and New Mexico, but within my office, Sammy and then we have Jacob. We're licensed through a lot of states. They are anyway. And so if you're looking in another state, don't hesitate to call us because it's a good chance we're licensed there and we can help.
Well, that brings up another thing. This isn't just some business you can get into and just say, I'm now in the mortgage business. There is a legal process you have to go through. What exactly is that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you have to do now. I would think it's probably the same thing. You take classes. You have to take classes kind of like a realtor. And then you're tested, so you have to pass a test. And then each year you have to do continuing education.
Does B9 count for that?
As continuing education? No.
Oh, doggone it. All right. Just was wondering you could try to slide it. I had to do the same thing with school teaching. I had to be able to teach AP classes. I'd have like 30 hours of continuing education. And so I'd go spend a week at TCU or something like that. But so again, the good thing about it, though, is that when they deal with you, they're dealing with somebody that not only has experience, but is kept up to date with the latest things and with the industry.
Every day is a learning process too, because they change guidelines and things like that. So every day you're getting emails that you're really needing to research and do your homework on and keeping up to date on all the programs.
Are you strictly residential or do you do commercial?
I am residential. However, I do have an outlet that I can refer people for commercial. Very good company. So, and it's a fairly easy process. So if somebody out there is looking for commercial, I would be happy to put them in contact with them.
Oh, good. Now, one of the things that's affecting real estate in this state was the legislature, June, one of those special sessions, passed a massive property tax cut and a big boost to the homestead exemption. Now, that has to be ratified by the voters, which I'm quite sure it will be.
November 7th, please vote.
You have an opinion on how to vote?
Vote for.
Okay. Well, it's going to
benefit. Oh, yeah.
It's going to pass. I mean, what the big sticking point was the money that was being taken out by the tax cut, would it hurt the schools? And what got it past the legislature was they took a lot of the rainy day fund and applied it towards schools. So it was, I don't know, school districts will never tell you they have all the money they need, but at least the way it's being sold by the politicians, which you can take it for what it's worth, but the money that's going to be taken out of the school tax funds because of the lower tax rates is going to be replaced by direct money from the state of Texas. So I'm sure as we get closer to November 7th, a lot more stuff will come out, but what would that do for you?
Well, for homeowners, first of all, you want to make sure you're homestead. If you own the home, make sure you're a homestead. All you have to do is go through your county, go to their website. There's a form you can fill out because you will not be able to take advantage of this unless you are homestead. So go ahead and get that. Make sure you're homestead. Then what it's going to do is going to increase your tax exemption, I think, on the school end from $40,000 to $100,000. If you're 65 or disabled, it's an extra $10,000 on top of that. And then I did talk to the county. I called Johnson County, in fact, and I asked them because we've been paying in so much taxes, how is that going to be reimbursed?
I was wondering about that myself.
Yeah. So I checked with the county, and they said that because I thought maybe it was the escrow, you would get something back from your mortgage company. They said no. They said you're going to get it from the county. You will receive a form to fill out. Fill that out. If you don't receive a form, you'll want to contact them, but you can probably get a form online and fill that out, and then you'll get a check from them. So
you just fill out this form
Yep.
and mail it back in, or drop it off at the tax office.
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to have some money coming back, I want to make sure that mail gets received.
Right.
So
and that's another good thing about buying a house now. Getting homestead. I mean, that's the main thing. And I remind everybody when we at the closing table, make sure you homestead. You used to have to wait till after January 1 to homestead. That's not the case anymore. You can do it. But you do have to have your driver's license switched over, updated with your new address, and show that and file your homestead. Now, if you buy a house, say today, that homestead does not go into effect until January 1, but you still want to get that file that homestead.
Well, and see what a lot of people didn't know, and I didn't know when I first read about this. They said, "Oh, this will be," Patrick and that crowd was saying, "Oh, this will be for 2023." Well, I thought, assuming it's passed in November, but actually it's retroactive.
Yes.
And so to January 1st of this year, so you're getting a refund of the difference between the old rate and the new rate.
Correct.
And with the new homestead exemption levels.
Well, and the way the property taxes went up this last year, I mean, that's going to help everybody.
There's going to be a lot of checks being sent.
Yeah. It's going to help the homeowners.
Well, I would rather tell you the truth, they just direct deposit it, because checks, when they say checks in the mail, I mean, we're still waiting a couple of checks for my daughter after her home sale.
Really?
Yeah, from the Fort Worth Water Company. Oh, yeah, because to get their deposit back, and, they've been out of the house for about 6 weeks now. Oh, yeah, it's in the mail. It'll get right to you.
Yeah.
Apparently, they have one day a month that they write checks, literally.
I was going to say, you want to go pick it up.
Yeah, I would have done that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't know the logistics of that. We were talking about that yesterday at the meeting, and I thought it was an escrow thing.
Well, I kind of assumed that too. And so I called and asked them. They said, no, you will get it. And it'll absolutely be from the county. And then another thing I want to say is that once you file your homestead, as long as you live in that property, you only have to do it that one time. Okay? You don't have to file that homestead every year.
Yeah. And so, but it wasn't always 40,000. It was like 20,000 at one time, wasn't it?
Probably so.
Yeah.
I didn't pay that much attention to it till the taxes really started going up.
I'm just thinking about when I started this process, it was lower than 40%, and now it's going to be, or 40,000, not percent. I'm using the wrong numbers. I'm sorry. I thought 40,000 is the latest number, but not the original number.
Yeah. And
I remember
so
it's
it'll
like
go
20, 25,000. And now bump up to $100,000.
Yeah. And we all need that. That's one, I won't get into that, but school taxes, it's just.
Oh, I've talked to the school, my school board friends, and they really wring their hands over that, because they understand how it's being perceived. They understand that nobody likes taxes being raised or their property values being raised, thus their payment go up. They're not oblivious to that at all. A couple of them deal in real estate, and I know they do what they can, but it just, as we grow, every time a kid comes to our district, that's another expense. I don't want to call it a net loss financially, but it's kind of, if you have a family moves in, they got 2 kids that come into the school system, the state will pay up to a certain amount for each one of those 2 kids, but it's less than what Burleson ISD has to pay to educate those 2 kids.
I've got something right here I wanted to mention, because you just mentioned appraised value. So I got this off the web. It says legislation passed this month would raise the state homestead exemption to $100,000, lower school taxes, and put an appraisal cap on residential and commercial properties, among other measures. So so it's going to help on your appraised value as well.
Well, that's good. And here's my concern, I guess, is that, like I said a few minutes ago, the schools are getting the money directly from the state to make up the shortfall that this would have caused otherwise. Are we going to have to do this every 2 years? They go to the state, get the money for the schools. And I have taught local government, Texas government, for years, and I still am very vague about school funding, because it's so complex, and it's not equitable in a lot of ways. But that was a real big concern. But even though all the stuff we've been talking about, higher rates and the market slowing down, you really couldn't tell about Burleson, right?
Right.
We're still growing.
Right.
And the schools are busting. Before we split into 2 high schools, which is still, for a lot of us, very controversial. I'll just leave it at that. But I was routinely getting classes in the mid-30s because just kids coming in. And that was, and after I have a relationship with BISD that's going to resume in September. They have a once-a-month show with various other aspects of BISD, and we offer so much more than we did, but they didn't come for nothing, So that's the eternal dilemma, I think, is the tax issues.
Yeah.
And I hear people, I talk to the politicians, the city council people like Victoria, and next month I'm going to have her and Adam Russell coming on the 19th to talk about tax issues.
Oh, good.
Because that's one of the biggest things they get hit on is the tax issues. And so it's going to be a really interesting show. I'm already promoting it now.
Very good.
19th of September. But she was on Tuesday, and we got into that, and Adam sent me an email responding to it, and I put it on the post out on Facebook. But that's when I talk to the school people, they say that's usually the second thing they all talk about was tax rates. First thing is about curricular issues and whatnot, or some specific thing. So anyway, I'm rambling a bit. So, but you're thinking this tax change will really benefit your company in particular.
My company, it's going to benefit a lot. And then, but we want to make sure everybody gets out and votes on November 7th for that.
Well, I have no doubt. No, people, we have these every 2 years, these referendum on constitutional changes and whatnot. About 7 to 8% of the people show up. Every time we have one of these, I talk to my class right after. It said, "So, how did y'all vote the other day?" And they go, "There was an election. What? Vote for what?" They have no idea.
Yeah.
That a lot of these are pretty low key. So I'm 100% sure it'll pass because all the pro side has to say is you're going to get a check and boom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's positive.
I think it's a good change as long as the legislature does what it is morally obligated to do by the schools. Okay. We have the Constitution of our state only allows a certain amount of money to be in that rainy day fund. And we went into this year with like $35 billion to distribute almost because our economy's growing so big in Texas and all that.
Wow.
And so that's why we had those big tax cuts and stuff like that. So we had a lot of excess money to unload, and we just can't just put it in the bank. The Constitution says you've already hit your limit. And
so your concern is what's going to happen next year or
well,
year
to
after?
2 years or 4 years from now, will the legislature maintain sufficient funding for the schools out of their own pocket, so to speak? I mean, because it's going to be less of a burden, I think, on the taxpayers individually. But I am concerned about, whoever's running the government then is going to maintain that obligation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem for 2 years from now, Anyway, but we're almost out of time, sir. You just tell us everything you want us to know in the last couple minutes here.
Oh, well, if anyone out there is looking for a house or to refinance or just have questions on it, I'm happy to help. I'm local. You can call me at 817-925-2661. My email is the letter KGOW@UMortgage.com. And I'm here to help with, like I said, any questions or if you're looking to purchase or refinance. And there's no silly questions. It's not something you do every day. And I understand that. I mean, even like I said, things come out every day that are new. So, you're not going to know everything. So,
yeah. Well, I could personally vouch as somebody who's done business with you twice. There's a reason why I did it twice. I mean, because I liked it so much the first time that I went back the second time, right? That's that when you say you use something more than once, that right there is a reference or a recommendation.
We appreciate you.
And I appreciate what you do for the community. I appreciate what you do for BNI. You're very pleasant and sweet to deal with, and you make BNI work, and I appreciate that. And so I'm really glad to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, by the way, one last thing. Saturday, the Children's Advocacy Center over in Cleveland is having their Cowboys for Kids So check out their website to see what's going on that. Tammy King was on the show about 3 weeks ago, I believe, early August, to talking about it. So it's time. August 26th is when it's going to happen. So check that out. They're going to have food provided by our friends at Meatmeisters, and they've been on the show. Do you know who Meatmeisters is? Okay, good. I get their hams every Easter now, and they're good. And I'm not a big ham guy, but I eat that one. I really like it. Also, next week, Tuesday, I mentioned Old Pro Roofing, John Williams be here. I had a show scheduled on Thursday, but my guest had to cancel because it was Lisa Schwartz. She's going to help her daughter move. Oh. Yeah, her daughter got a job, and they're helping her move. And so we'll have to postpone that show. And then on Monday, kind of ironically, I'm going to talk about China and its problems, and they're all real estate costs. Not all, but a lot of it is. So I'll be talking about real estate, kind of like here we're talking about a tight market. Over there is like their economy's in really, really bad shape. And so I'll be spending my time talking about that.
What day is that?
Next Monday.
Okay.
So I'll be doing it the home version, so to speak.
You're not going to China?
Lord, no. No. I am not a fan of China. We are not our friends. Anyway, Taylor, you try to stay out of trouble this weekend. I don't want to. Getting tired about reading about you in the newspapers.
You know what?
Yes, it's time to go now.
Because you put me there.
Okay. And we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
All right.